Hi, so it's great to be back with one more podcast episode for 2022. As you may have noticed, I've been a little bit quieter on the podcast front recently because I've been so focused on writing and editing and getting this book ready to launch in 2023. So, really focused on that at the moment. And I think we have to sometimes in business just allow ourselves to be a little bit flexible when we really, really want to get a new project out there. So yeah, I've been sitting back a bit on this. I've been working behind the scenes to think about how I'm going to shape my business going into 2023. And I've been thinking a little bit about how things are sitting in terms of people and their behaviour and the feeling in the world at the moment and the circumstances we found ourselves in this year and how that's all going to shape up for business and the world of entrepreneurship for 2023. So I just thought I would share a few of those thoughts with you today. So we're going to explore where people are at. We're going to explore a little bit about marketing and about how to position yourself going forward and the things that you need to be thinking about to really make sure that your business thrives next year. So I hope you enjoy this. It's about 20 minutes long, so not super long, but maybe grab yourself a nice drink and put your feet up and just enjoy this over the festive break. And I will see you in the new year. Have a wonderful time. So, I'm going to explore a few things here, and we're going to look at this based on human behaviour and where we're at in the world right now and what's been going on. So what we've seen in 2022 and in the past couple of years is a huge amount of change, isn't it? We've had economic change, social change going on in terms of the way people work and the way people imagine their lives, and in terms of values and desires. And we've had just so much turbulence. Like, one thing has almost got sorted and then another thing's come along, and that's been rumbling on in the background, and then something else has happened, and it's just been like non-stop, one thing after another for a lot of people's minds. So we are still crafting this new landscape post-COVID, and I feel like that's kind of got nearly there, and then all this other stuff's happened as well. So it's not really clear yet, like, how things might look in the longer term. And really, is it ever? The world's always constantly evolving and changing, and stuff is happening, and we can just never predict the future and how things are actually going to be in the longer term, can we? I feel like right now we have a bit of a double-edged sword. So people are almost being pulled in two different directions. I think a lot of us are way more sure of what we want and what we don't want. So we've got a lot more certainty. People are a lot more tuned into their real values. But on the other hand, we're in very uncertain times, aren't we? So we kind of know that health-wise we need to look after ourselves better. We know what we want in terms of spending more time with our families or on the things we love, and like mentally we know that we need more support. But we're in these times where everything just keeps changing. So I think for a lot of people, they know what they want, and I can see this dream there, this like bubble of how things should be for me. But on the other hand, I'm feeling like things aren't that attainable at the moment, and maybe my dream is going to have to wait until things have stabilised and settled down, and maybe I'm going to have to throw myself into working extra hard at the moment just to make sure I make it through this tough period. For us as business owners and entrepreneurs and change makers in the world, we know that isn't true, don't we? We know that the world doesn't wait. We know that we have to seize those dreams and craft the way that we want things to be now, because the world isn't going to suddenly go, oh, here you go, it's all fine, have it just the way you want. The world doesn't sit still, and we can't just sit back happily and expect things will settle down again nicely, because life just doesn't work that way, and business certainly doesn't work that way. And that's one of the real joys of steering your own ship. that we have to adapt. We have to keep constantly adjusting and setting sail in a different direction. And we can't just expect and plan for things to work out in the nice rosy times only and wait until that happens. We constantly have to be asking ourselves, what's needed now? What's going to work now? Where should I focus? Especially when things are all over the place, and just continue to keep going that way. Now, the wonderful thing is that changing times like these bring opportunities, sometimes not obvious opportunities. So maybe you're sitting there and thinking, oh, I can't see any opportunity. It just feels like closed doors all around me at the moment. But there are sometimes opportunities in those closed doors, in that we eventually get to this point where we go, I just can't go anywhere with this. What can I do that's different? How can I innovate? So sometimes those closed doors just force us to find a new way out of the room, a new way forward, and to start thinking differently. So troubled times in the world are always incredible times of innovation. They force this change. And you guys right now have the opportunity to drive positive change in the world, to be right at the forefront of helping your industry evolve, helping the world evolve, helping create this new world, and to be the one who does things differently and who thrives and who helps others to thrive and brings people along with you as well. And that is so exciting, isn't it? That's amazing to be at the forefront of innovation and change and positive change for the world. So really jump on that right now. If you've been kind of wondering where to go and thinking, I just don't quite know how I'm going to make things work in the way they always used to, maybe just kind of put a lid on that and say, it isn't going to be the way it always used to be, but what else is there? How else can I change things? Maybe it's time to explore that project that I always wondered about. Maybe it's time to just start brainstorming and thinking in a slightly different way. How can I find those new doors? How can I create those new doors for myself? I think we also have to really understand that a lot of people are not in that same innovative mindset that a lot of us are. So there's a lot of uncertainty and stress in the world, and many of us in the industry also will still be feeling all that anxiety, all that stress. The past couple of years has just been so hard on us, mind-wise, nervous system-wise, all the things. And you quite possibly have noticed your own anxiety levels increasing this year. Maybe you found it harder to focus. Maybe you found it harder to stay in control of your schedule and focus on the right things. Maybe the spending and the shiny objects have been more than they needed to be to really help you focus and stay on track. And maybe it's been harder for you to get motivated or to do that innovation thing. Maybe you've been thinking, yeah, I need to do that, but it's just not happening for me at the moment. Freeze mode, basically, where we just want to kind of shut away and hide away. And your clients are feeling that a lot as well at the moment, so they're going to be feeling more anxious than normal. I think it's so important right now to recognize that and to go deeper into building trust, and maybe not expecting things to be as fast as they were before. I think that things are really kind of taking longer for people because they are thinking, well, I need to make sure I get this right. So I don't think people are stopping spending from what I've seen and what I've seen online and kind of heard via little surveys I've done and things like that. People aren't stopping spending on the whole, but people are being way more cautious and more careful in the way that they invest. So I think you really have to recognize that, expect that maybe it will take longer to build that trust and build those relationships. So if you've seen a real slowdown in sales recently, it might just be that people are kind of hanging back a little bit more and just waiting to know that they are really ready to invest with you. So go deeper into building trust, go deeper into reassuring people that you are the right choice, you're the safe choice, you're the ethical choice. That's so important right at the moment. and you need to be there for them maybe in a way that you haven't been before. Over the last few years, there's been this kind of burst of excitement, this kind of bubble of the online space, if that's where you primarily operate. And I think even in the larger world as well, this kind of bubble of expenditure and excitement to invest in new things. And that's kind of really slowing down and changing, and people are just taking a lot longer to really trust things before they do invest in them. So maybe expect things to be a bit slower. Take time to really reinforce that you are an ethical choice and a safe choice for them, and be there for them in a way that maybe you've just not before. Connection, safety, reassurance, these are all the things that people need right now, and they need them from you. So how can you bring that into your business, into your marketing, into what you're offering, to make it more of a certain and safe bet for these people who are feeling anxious and worried about the state of the world? You may have noticed, if you've been hanging out in internet world, a lot of repositioning going on, lots and lots. So if you look at a lot of the big coaches who were all about the massive money marketing claims before, and were kind of flashing their lifestyles all the time, and that was their main magnet for people, they are really toning down that messaging now and shifting it and starting to speak about how money isn't everything, and they're starting to kind of lean into that backlash that's been going on against the transparent money marketing. And I think they're aware that they need to shift and reposition themselves to keep attracting people. And I'm not sure even at the moment that those guys are going to find it so easy to attract people on the scale that they were before. So it'll be really interesting to watch and see what happens as time goes on and as they reposition themselves. So yeah, lots of that going on. Keep watching what's going on with the big guys. There's been a lot of posturing, a lot of positioning around integrity, about being authentic, about being inclusive. Those are real buzzwords that have been done to death over this last year. Very little on what happens once the sale's been made, what happens behind the scenes, how you follow up, how you keep providing service and looking after your people after the sale has taken place. So I think that's also super important. It's all about building those strong ethical foundations the whole way through. So those like half-assed programs, half-assed messaging, things that were an easy sell before just aren't going to cut it anymore, and cookie cutter approaches that aren't really centered around the individual and exactly what they need, I think we're going to see that they just don't fly anymore. People want real, they want proper support, they want things that actually work. They don't just want to be in somebody's airstream for a while, in basking in their energy. It's got to be about substance, hasn't it, at the moment? So yeah, as I said earlier, I think there are people out there who are absolutely happy to invest and are investing more, because that makes total sense in difficult times as well, to invest more to make sure that your business thrives in these tough times, and to keep diversifying and finding new ways of doing things. So those people are the ones that maybe you need to be focusing on, the people who are in this for the long haul and are happy to invest and see the sense in investing, unless you're going to go the other way and innovate and provide very cheap, very accessible products and services, but they're not necessarily going to be an easy sell. And certainly the people who have their heads screwed on, who are looking to keep investing and keeping developing during these times, are not going to be an easy sell either, and neither should they be. So we need to really, really think about making sure that we're looking after those people, making sure that we are appealing to them in that slow way where we really build trust and really provide things of substance. I think we're going to see, like during the last recession, I don't know if I ever mentioned in this group before, but I started my business right not this business, the previous one, right at the beginning of the 2008 recession. I bought the place that I owned then in September 2007, and then lo and behold, massive recession 2008. And what we saw then was really this shifting away from the middle ground. So the mediocre, the average didn't cut it anymore. People left mediocre businesses in droves. They went for very cheap or very good. So you get to decide which one you're going to go for. So yeah, that's just something to bear in mind about what tends to happen during a recession. So we need to be quite clever in terms of positioning ourselves, in terms of being really thoughtful about who we're speaking to and how we can really help them in a deep and really substantial kind of way. There might not be so much competition maybe in terms of numbers of businesses now, but I think there's definitely going to be more competition in terms of raising your game and getting yourself taken seriously. So you have to stand out. You have to think about how you're going to be doing that next year. People are most definitely looking for leadership, and leadership that they can trust. They are looking for people to provide exactly what they want, and people who aren't afraid to break away from the standards and the typical mold and to do things differently. So it's time for you basically to be that leader. If you've not taken a leadership role in what you're doing before, to be brave enough to start to cultivate your own unique voice, rather than just following and parroting what you hear going on in the industry and in the world. It's time to really start to dig down into you and what you believe in and what you stand for, and to start to share that with the world. That takes confidence, right? That takes balls. But it's really, really essential at the moment to be an authentic voice and not just talk about authenticity, but actually really. Yeah, so how can you be there? How can you confidently show up and say, look, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be a strong pillar for you in this strange world where things are just moving around all the time. People are looking for those leaders who will firmly stick their flag in the sand and stand out from the crowd, and people who look like they are in it for the long haul and know what they're talking about. So yeah, be very mindful of that going forward, and just think, like, how can I start to show up with more leadership, with more confidence? What can I dig down into that I haven't done so before? And how can you change? How can you innovate in that way too? And maybe even part of your messaging and the way that you are marketing yourself has to be around helping other people to start to move forward in their lives and embrace this changing sea, and to start to shape that new reality for themselves. Maybe just being brave and talking about that in your own messaging is going to be a really helpful thing for you. And lastly, I just want to say, I think that a lot of people are becoming aware now that because of all this stress and anxiety and changing stuff going on, that we need to get wise to the fact that we can't leave our minds out of the equation. And that comes through your programs and the work that you're doing with people. I've noticed a lot of people are starting to incorporate mindset and energy work into their programs, which is great, but I think it still doesn't fulfill that role of really tackling the emotional roller coaster that often goes on behind the scenes. So getting support for your own mental well-being this year is going to be huge. I think that's really important as things move forward, to keep you in peak form, to keep you on top of the game and stop you falling into that freeze mode that we talked about earlier. And making sure that you're doing that for yourself and for your people as well. So the people that are working with you, make sure that they are getting some good support. If you're not providing it in your own programs and in the services that you are offering at the moment, how can you help to point them in the right direction? how can you make sure that they know they have somebody to go to, and how can you help them to keep their mindset in the right place so that they are getting the most out of your programs. Maybe it's time to build referral links with mindset / subconscious coaches, just to make sure that they are really, really anchored mentally before they're doing the work with you on other things as well. That's probably it from me for today. Those are my predictions. That's where I think people are at in the world at the moment, and that's what I think is shifting and changing in the world of marketing and an online entrepreneurship. But I think, it's still going to be a shifting sea next year. I think we just need to stop worrying about when things will become predictable and certain again, and just grab it by the balls and just start taking ourselves forward in 2023 and making it happen for ourselves. So there we go. So that was recorded live for my Facebook group, Purpose, Peace and Profit. You may have been able to hear my kids in the background screaming and running around at various points. Hopefully that wasn't too distracting. But if you want to see the video and repeat it, then it's in the Facebook group. I will be recording more live trainings in that group as well, and there's a lovely community there of fellow people in business, entrepreneurship and change makers. So if you'd like to join us, you would be more than welcome. It would be lovely to see you there. In the meantime, some food for thought. I hope that was helpful. If there is anything you want to share, if that's given you any light bulb moments or given you pause for thought and you want to just take some time to digest that and see where you might be planning on positioning your business heading forward, then that's great. It's always good to have these things that just make us stop and reassess, and there is no better time than this time of year when everything's just a bit quieter and a bit slower, and we can kind of get away from our businesses for a little while and allow things just to percolate. And so often when we do that, everything starts to fall into place. So some nice food for thought there. Don't let it play on your mind too much, but if you do all of a sudden find yourself having any bright ideas, then it might just be that we've pushed a few of the right buttons here today. So I would love to hear about any changes that you might be making next year, or anything else that has really sparked for you following today's podcast episode. In the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful break, and I will be back in 2023. Enjoy yourselves, take care, and stay well.